what he got to say. I mean, I think if Kanye didn't have money, he'd be standing on the corner holding a sign.
Really?
You know, I mean, and people would. It's always like, you know, I've heard people on the corners, you know, make more sense than him. I don't know what that dude is talking about. I just don't. And you're right. You see a lot of this. Trump has given rise to people thinking, well, hell, if he can do it,
I can do it.
you know, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was at some point I remember The Rock was talking about running for president. I don't know if it was real. I've not heard anything else about it. If it was just in jest.
The Rock,
in jest.
Oprah.
But there are a lot of people. Well, Oprah said no, but there were a lot of people who.
Guess what?
The
Rock, Oprah, the little Geico lizard.
Me.
Everybody's
running.
Right.
I'm running.
I think we all should run. Yeah, we all should run. So that's what it's coming to. But you know, and these are, you know, people with never held political office before. You know, whoever. I remember them talking about, you know, President Obama. You know, he's never, you know, he just got into the Senate. He doesn't have enough experience. And here we got, you know, at least he had elected office. But here we got, you know, Donald Trump never held office, never ran for anything. And so everybody else sees that and they're like, hey, I can do that. I can do that. You know, and I don't think Donald Trump is paying Kanye as much attention as Kanye would like to think. I don't think it, you know, I think Donald Trump only has room in his mind for Donald Trump. And anything that's going to pump Donald Trump, he'll promote. So if Kanye is saying great things about him, yeah, he'll say nice things. He'll mention his name a couple times. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Man.
So, you know, one other question that I think we should kind of go over is, what do you think about this culture of celebrities and people who are, you know, in social media influences and stuff like that? What do you think of these people trying to get into politics or successfully getting into politics at this level? Because, you know, like I said before, we do have celebrities who are great social activists, but as we've seen, you know, the main reason when Donald Trump was originally running for president, the main reason that they thought he would be a good president was because of his, you know, financial background as shown on TV. He was the Celebrity Apprentice. He owns Trump this and Trump that. He has to be a great businessman. He'll help us with the economy. That was kind of the thing that was driving people towards talking about him in the first place, because they associated his identity as a celebrity into a political office. So what do you think this culture of bringing celebrities or public figures who really don't have a background in politics into mainstream politics is doing for our country? So, I really want you guys to think about that. And then after the break, I want to hear it. You have to say Thin Bad and the Chief. Okay? Let's go to the break.
You're listening to Straight No Chaser. We'll be right back.
DWI, even at first, it's pretty harsh. You don't realize, you know?
Up to 90 days in jail.
Can't be there for my family.
I'm in here. They're out there.
They put an ignition interlock in your car for 1 year.
Car won't start unless you blow into it.
It's embarrassing.
You gotta pay fees, get a lawyer.
Need to see my probation officer for testing all the time.
Have to pick up garbage.
It literally consumes your life.
I lost my family's trust.
Lost my job.
I lost my marriage.
I lost my kids.
Lost a lot of time, you know? A DWI is just a big waste of time.
Leave me alone.
When a child shares hurtful comments online, that's bullying. Visit erasebullying.ca to learn how to help your child stand up to cyberbullying.
I just remembered it's election day. Are you going to vote?
I don't know. I don't think I'll have time today.
Millions of eligible voters in America never make it to the polls or even register to vote. When you don't vote, you're letting other people make decisions for you and pick the things your taxes will pay for. Voting is more than a civic duty. It gives you a voice about the priorities and the future of your community and our nation. Voting gives you a seat at the table.
You're listening to Straight No Chaser. So let's get back to your girl Ambeezy, Pastor C, and the Chief.
All right, and just like that, we're back from the break. So, before we went to the break, I kind of started this discussion, or I raised the question of, what do you guys think about this phase in America where now we have mainstream celebrities entering into major political positions? I'm really, really, really interested in seeing what you guys have to say. And I mean, you know, it's not the first time we've seen it because, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California and stuff like that. But what do you guys think about this movement of celebrities getting into the White House at this point? And we actually have a caller from Atlanta, Georgia. So I want to hear what this caller has to say. So caller, introduce yourself and let us know how you're feeling.
Hi, this is Gina Rogers. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia. And
Hi, Gina.
I listened to you. Hi, how are you all today?
Doing great.
Good.
I am an avid listener. I try to listen every week, and you all really put on a great show, and you all bring up very good conversation, and I love the dialogue that you all bring up. My take on
Gina.
celebrity...
Thank you, Gina. Do you also like Thin Bad and Ambeezy also?
I love you all. I love you all.
Thank you.
Okay. You know, celebrities in politics is not anything new. You know, we've had, Arnold, Schwarzenegger, Sonny Bono. We have a lot of good, intelligent people who have segued over into politics. Al Franken, unfortunately, even though he's not there, anymore. I'll begin by saying that when Donald Trump started making those noises about running for president, I just prayed that the media would ignore him because I truly felt that if they paid him attention, that he was going to run seriously, and as it happened, he became president. We live in a time when social media drives us, and we don't think any deeper than the latest and the greatest and the biggest buzz. So for Kanye or Ye or whatever it is that he's, wants to be called now, makes a serious attempt, it's possible that he would not necessarily win, but he would draw enough votes to keep someone who really could make a good run at it. That he could really affect it. Okay. And that's and only because we have a lot of young people who, or even old people who listen to him, and because our values are so shallow, that would say, oh, well, you know, Kanye could definitely do a better job than Donald Trump if they don't like Donald Trump. But you still have a lot of people who think that Donald Trump is doing a good job. So I wish that we were a society now where we looked deeper and we were able to separate reality TV from real life. But I think that cow has left the barn, and, you know, we slaughtered that cow, and everybody's eating steak and hamburgers and everything, and we don't realize that it's made out of cardboard. I mean, that's just really how I feel.
Well, thank you for the call, and MBZ, what do you think about that? And thank you, Gina, for calling.
Thank you so much, and I'll continue to listen.
Thank you so much. You have a great week.
I definitely agree. I think that it goes back to the point that I made earlier, that publicity is publicity, whether it's bad or good. When Trump was running for president, people, I mean, it was a story. People thought it was so intriguing that, you know, this guy wasn't just running for a state office or local office. He was going for the big guns. He was going for president of the United States, and more people couldn't believe it. So the media started covering it more and more and more, whether if it was good or bad. And at the end of the day, like, we are a generation that lives on our phones. So if we see a person every day, if we hear what they have to say every day, we're going to care about what they're doing. We're going to care about what they're saying. And somehow they can weasel their way into the White House. So, I mean, that's what I was saying earlier, where it's like, I really wish Kanye hadn't brought up the 13th Amendment at all. Because now that it's out there in the media, now people are going to start talking about it. People are already talking about it. Who knows what can happen now? I mean, as soon as Brett Kavanaugh was announced, the first thing that they started talking about was the jeopardy of our women's rights. And to this day, I wonder if we would have just let him, you know, I mean, granted, let me say this first. Granted, I'm glad that we're investigating him, and I'm glad his abusers came forward and we kind of nipped it in the bud in that sense. But I often wonder if people weren't going so crazy over, oh my God, if this guy gets in here, he's coming for our women's rights first, to the point where it became an issue. Like, it became an issue. So I wonder if people weren't talking about it so much, if that was something that could have just kind of went by. Like, we haven't talked about the 13th Amendment for years because nobody's been talking about it. And now that it's been talked about and it's getting so much attention, who knows what can happen now? And, I wonder the same thing with the women's rights. You know, with the Me Too movement, sexual assault has been coming up more and more and more and more. But I still to this day think that if people were not taking it to media so much about the jeopardy of women's rights, I'm not sure if it was something that would have really came up like that. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And that's kind of the thing about social media. I mean, you can argue like, oh, no, it would have still came up because this, that, and the third. But really, if you really think about it, like, it can go the same way with the president. People are like, oh, even though he's talking about him, nothing's going to happen. And now he's the president. If we would not have paid so much attention to him and what he was doing, who knows if he would have even made it this far. So I don't know. That's really like where my mind is. Like, social media is a blessing and a curse, but it's like, I feel like because of social media, so many things are being brought back into the picture that should be left